Hi everybody, if you haven't already seen it, let me tell you that the Hindi film Lapata Ladies is delightful and fun. It also makes a very strong case for women's rights, but with a very light touch. Lapata Ladies also helps us find, or rather rediscover, Kiran Rao. That's perhaps an odd thing to say given that Kiran has not been away from the public eye. The first time as this industry professional who married mega star and actor Amir Khan, then as the producer of many films made by Amir Khan Productions, then as the chairperson of Mumbai's Film Festival, Mami, but mostly for being a woman who's living life on her own terms. Kiran, I'm delighted we are having this conversation because, like I messaged you after seeing Lapata Ladies, I was gushing. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I think that's the feedback you're getting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's actually been the overwhelming feedback, It's been really wonderful. As a filmmaker, you never expect it. At least I absolutely didn't. But I've had really an overwhelming sort of love that people have felt for the film, which I'm really grateful for. I didn't expect it.
Am I overstating the case when I say that Lapata Ladies has also helped us rediscover Kiran Rao, the director?
Absolutely. It helped me discover myself. On some level, sort of Jaya and Pool's, conversation at the end of the film is really me, also. It helped me find, the kind of stories that I would possibly like to tell, discover that I like the challenge of telling stories outside of maybe what in film school I thought I would be making, pushing myself in a direction as an artist, finding new ways to tell stories. After Dhobi Ghat, it was very well received. Of course, it was a much smaller, a niche audience for that film. But, I was looking to do more broad work, interesting, engaging work that I could tell. And I just wasn't able to find the right story. And when I heard the sort of one-line idea of this, before I'd read it, something in my head went off and I was like, this is it. This is the story I want to tell, because it's a very accessible story into which you can embed all kinds of subtext, conversations that you want to have, but through, comedy, through this
It was just very funny. Some of the dialogues, when I saw it in the theatre, were laugh out loud dialogues. And I could sense the enjoyment amongst the people in the theatre that day. And what I find interesting is how entertaining it was. I mean, that was the main thing. It was fun. Time well spent. I was entertained, and yet there was so much you were saying. How did you achieve that balance? Because it's a craft. It's a matter of crafting a movie in that way, isn't it?
That's right. It is. It was a bit tricky because when we started out, we had a story which Biplab had written, which was wonderful and said almost all the same things, but they weren't well enough sort of let's say disguised through humor or through sort of situation, circumstance, things like that. So to work on that like balance of being able to say that but doing it covertly was the challenge. We worked on it from the script stage. We knew that we didn't want things to be overstated, on the nose, too preachy. So we did that when we were working on the script. We applied a really strong filter to ourselves even then. But even after we shot the film, we removed quite a bit because we did think that
based on this filter, using this filter, that is it getting heavy-handed?
Exactly. I mean, that less is more, show not tell were like very much sort of dictums in our head. We were like
when we were editing,
and literally right up until post Toronto, I've sort of slightly changed shots or reduced things, tried to do it as economically as possible. Because actually, people get things. We are past that stage when you have to over-explain, you have to underline, you have to, sort of shout from rooftops. In fact, people, I think, appreciate when you leave it to them to do a bit of the thinking and finding in a story. And that's always exciting for me as an audience when a filmmaker kind of leaves these breadcrumbs that I can follow and find my own way in some way also. So yeah, I tried very hard to make it as succinct and tight and
And so
free
light.
flowing and
So light.
yeah.
And there's also a loving eye, I feel.
Mm.
All your characters, and I didn't know any of this cast except for the star, which is
Ravi Kishan.
Ravi Kishan. He's the star in the film,
He
isn't
is.
it? But besides him, a couple of the women,
Chaya Kadam.
Chaya Kadam and the
Geeta-
mother, yeah.
Geeta.
We are familiar with these
That's right.
actors,
Yeah, yeah.
but they're not stars in the conventional sense of the mainstream, right? And your main leads were absolutely unknown. What made you go in for a new cast?
You kind of get much more invested in these people. You're not so consumed by the fact that they are an actor or a star playing a part, but you kind of begin to identify with their journey, with their struggle. And it helps you very much get immersed in story, I feel, rather than, stay on the outside and watch it just as an audience. Here you do become invested. The kind of story this was, it really demanded a very organic, earthy kind of set of characters and actors, and it is a bit of a, it could become just a gag after gag kind of laugh out loud comedy. But the fact that it's also like a really human story about very ordinary people actually who are put to trying circumstances, are able to find, a dignified way out of it in some way and like learn something from it. These are, I don't want to suggest that well-known stars can't do this. Of course they can. But I just thought that it would make it a lot more real. It would make it a lot more sort of, I don't know, in some ways immediate and acceptable and identifiable almost.
Was this your outlook right from the beginning when you didn't take it to any known actor?
No,
in that
I
sense?
did not. No.
That's quite cool.
Yeah. No, from the beginning we thought that we'd do it with either completely new cast or, I didn't think of non-actors really, because this film demands quite a bit of skill in terms of like dialogue and timing and things like that. So I did want to work with fairly well-established or at least to some extent had some experience kind of actors. But I wasn't looking for known faces at all, except for some of these big roles, you know, which helped kind of support the new cast.
Today in 2024, a sort of rejection of a lot of things that are very traditional and traditionally the way Indian society has evolved, and we reject it completely. And in this film, I thought there are, you can see the evolution, and yet you're not throwing or rejecting everything that it offers.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious thought?
That was, because, when we are talking about struggles or experiences of women, you realize that, at least when we were working on this, I wanted to be able to look at different situations that women find themselves in, and it's really about being able to find yourself within that situation, and because often we can't change everything around us, and sometimes it's about finding that space within your marriage. It's not like you need to chuck out the institution altogether to be happy, or in some cases, if the marriage is not working out like Manjumai does, find your own, kind of way forward to live a single, happy life. So that was the idea, was to be able to explore all these different things and maybe offer some insight into how you could do it, even being, sort of with your mother-in-law for 20 years, you haven't got along. Maybe you can
come to another easy equilibrium.
Exactly. Change that relationship up a little bit, find a way to, reach out to each other, and find support systems. I feel like really, we need to support each other, and I don't think we say that often enough. And we need to be kinder to each other, especially when we're in big family situations. And everybody has their struggles. I think it's important to acknowledge that, at whatever stage, especially women are, they all have had some experience that needs us to be understanding of.
To talk about the new cast a little bit more, when it came to marketing the film, while it was great in terms of the story and the reception from the audience now, marketing the film would have been tough because we are living in a time where only stars seem to get you that opening weekend.
Yes.
And that is so critical, isn't it?
Or horror. There are some genres that you maybe don't need stars in.
Yeah.
But barring that, yeah, it does. It's very hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I've realized that after this film, because the film has not yet reached as wide an audience as I would have liked, as any of us would have liked. And while it's been unanimously loved, the word of mouth can only grow to a certain extent when the starting critical mass is small.
I get it. Yeah.
So you need to be able to run for very, very long. Plus, there are all kinds of other reasons why people don't go to cinemas as much today as they probably did pre-COVID. So stars help a lot. I mean,
I would imagine that a lot of people also might say that, hey, you know, let it come onto the streaming platforms, which all movies do inevitably, or TV, and let me watch it then. Is that a block?
Absolutely. I mean, people are so much more, I mean, and understandably, I'm also very comfortable to, like, when I can sit at home and watch it at my leisure. I don't have to figure out a show time and a place. And it's, I mean, cost is a barrier. I mean, you know, it is expensive for many people to go to cinemas. So actually the widest mass that I would like to reach, perhaps can't even afford going to cinemas anymore.
So then what happens to the kind of movies like Lapata Ladies or, you know, or anything that is not the three categories that you just mentioned broadly?
Yeah. I don't know, honestly. I mean, I think we are still trying to figure, unless we really hugely invest in cinema infrastructure, we increase the number of cinema theatres for film goers, we reduce prices as a consequence of having more cinemas. I think we'll permanently be facing this problem as small films or indie films or films without big stars. Because honestly, when we first heard that multiplexes were coming, we were like, great, this is
smaller films.
But inevitably, whether it's even OTTs to some extent, you don't find every film that you would like to watch, that you've heard about in festivals or you've seen, you know, written about in some blog, don't always make it to OTTs because OTTs also have a mandate, they want certain things and they also want stars.
So now.
But often, you know, your very, very small things just don't make it there. So it's a bit of a cleft stick for, I feel. You know?
Are these the pressures that you're feeling as a person who's communicating a story today? Because
I am.
As it is to tell a story
is difficult. Who is your audience? In this country, in any case, we have like the most diverse kind of like, you know, tastes. So it is harder, especially if I'm not necessarily looking to do the, you know, the next big, make the next big box office hit. You know, I really feel like filmmaking, for me at least, it's of course for everybody, it's a lot of work, it's many years of your life, and I'd like it to stand for something for me that's lasting. And to do that, I think you'll have to then, you know, take some of these routes that other people take. It's something that now I'm feeling more and more pressured to think about.
Despite the success of Lapata Ladies?
Because there is a barrier.
No, what does success mean? Because I'm saying success because I loved it and I can see the word of mouth is great on it. And it's lasted in the movie halls for a month.
Yes.
Which is a long time.
This is our 5th week.
So it is a long time for movies.
No, it's a great, technically a success on every level actually.
So then why are you beginning to contemplate having to adopt other routes to reach a bigger audience?
You know, because in this film, I really wanted it to be seen by women everywhere. And it's the kind of film now that I will personally want to take around and show in different, you know, to different communities through you know,
that's a different outreach thing which is direct.
Exactly. But that outreach that I will have to now do personally with perhaps really big stars, I could have done in cinemas. is the
sense that you get.
is now in retrospect when I think about it, it's what makes, I think, not having big stars and none of the sort of packaging of a traditional star-driven film makes it a special film. A lot of people have just deeply connected with it for that reason. But what it does is it just stays within a group of people who have access. You know, for instance, I was recently talking to a bunch of journalists who work with Khabar Lahariya, and where this Meera, this one of the founders lives, she has no cinema and no internet. So we sent her a link to watch the film.
She wasn't able to.
And she was like, रुक रुक के देख रही थी, हंस रही थी, फिर थोड़ा, you know, rewind करके देखती क्योंकि फिर रुक गया था, you know. And so the fact is that I can't reach many areas. The success is, box office success has happened. It's done well. It's still running. There's a lot of love. There's been almost unanimous sort of love for it. But the reach, I feel, has been not as wide as I would have liked, basically.
Sure. Reach is the big challenge, isn't it, for everybody?
It is. I feel like an FMCG brand or something saying reach, because you're like TG and reach and things
no,
are like...
But you know, Kiran, that's the thing about digital. Now that I'm running a YouTube channel, marketing is part of my job.
Correct.
Or it comes with the territory, and it's really difficult because while digital is exciting and the internet is exciting because it, you know, you can reach, you can get started. Anybody can get started,
correct.
But not everybody finds an audience just like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes the lack of an audience becomes a detriment. So you may have very good stuff, but or a brand, you just talked about FMCG, because you do a big ad campaign, let's say, and it doesn't show numbers. And then you're like, oh, okay, maybe it ddidn't work. So you may not, you become more fearful, actually.
You become more fearful. You want to, that's what makes all of us want to do what succeeds.
Yeah.
And that's in me, like, it's actually what became perhaps one of the reasons why Hindi cinema lost some of its audience.
Yeah.
Because we were chasing that success of the box office in a sense, perhaps, or maybe actors were kind of doing the same thing time and again, or, you know, there's been because of this glut of now visual, I don't know, entertainment, you're forced to also think outside the box, which is great. It's really given all of us a great kick up the behind in some ways, to say that, look, you're now competing not with the guy who lives in Warsaw. You're competing with Korea, you're competing with Turkey, and obviously we've always competed with Hollywood. So that's now the way. So how do you market to the world? That's one thing. But even within India, we have so many different worlds. And in order to even break into the consciousness of, say, you just want to talk to younger people, let's say, and you look at what actually works for younger people. It's a rabbit hole. You could get lost. You have no idea why some things are working for this generation, or, you know, an elderly generation, whatever. You don't know what it is that is doing well, and those milestones keep changing, those metrics keep changing, the ways of judging change.
So how do you stay relevant?
I mean, we have to accept the fact that, look, we can only make things that we find interesting to ourselves, and there will be other people like us, unless, you know, we are very, very, you know, sort of offbeat, so strange, and so it's unlikely. You'll find if you do things that you enjoy, there's definitely going to be one subset that enjoys it. The scale of that is something that you have to then
come to terms with
and be content with on some level. So that's actually something like, which is what you asked me, why when it's a successful film, why do you feel like you would want to change? Because actually I was aiming to go broader with this film. Now I know the limits to how broad you can go when you make a film with, say, no stars, or with a limited marketing budget, etc. The audience today is so scattered, and their ways of consuming are so different and diverse, that you can actually find a niche that can be actually really broad within that niche.
Yeah, especially in a country which has 1.4 billion people.
Exactly.
Any niche is a big niche.
It's a big niche.
Yeah.
It's so you know, because of this film, we were looking at a lot of talent on the internet, on social media, and we were looking at people who had, you know, large followings, and I was just like, quite amazed
Yeah.
by people who have like 200,000 followers, a million followers, 5 million followers on, say, Instagram or are followed hugely on Facebook. And it's very, very interesting what is being made and what is being consumed. And you would never think to
Yeah.
even put up something
Yeah.
like that of
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
But this is being loved.
Yeah.
So this is also something we as people who create
Yeah.
need to know on some level. To be relevant is to actually make
Compromise.
something to, one, of course, always keep your ear to the ground. But secondly, to find then within that the voice that you think would be exciting for you to watch. Like, this is something that I enjoy.
Yeah. Do you have your own production company now?
I do. Kindling Pictures.
And
it's one of the credits that comes up.
Yeah. So that's your company
Yeah.
now. And so you're going to be doing stuff as Kindling Pictures?
Lapata Ladies is our first film. We co-produced with AKP. I mean, I did all the production myself and all the rest of it. And going forward, I'd like to see what I can do on my own. Of course, I still would look to, partner with a big studio to be able to produce it. And Aamir Khan Productions would be my first choice to go to.
But they have first right of refusal?
They always. But a lot of Aamir is not so keen on series. He's never been that interested in developing series, and I have a couple of series ideas in mind. So there's a bunch of different things that I want to do. And I really would, because I've worked with Aamir now for 17, 18 years, I really feel like I would like to try other ways, other people, other groups, other
So,
studios.
a lot has been made, and I've heard you talk in the past month with all the conversation about movies, about your life with Aamir, right? And this love story that became a marriage, then became, a not marriage, but friendship. And it sounds really exciting. Do you want to tell women, men who are getting out of relationships how to keep the peace, not just keep the peace, how to not let it be a closed chapter when personal relationships end, but, flower in different ways? Is there anything there? I mean,
I can't, I don't want to presume to, to speak to people who are going through difficult divorces, because I know that any kind of separation or divorce is very difficult for both parties, and more often than not for children, of course, and more often than not for women. And also for lots of women, it's a financial problem, and because a lot of the time they're not secure and are therefore sometimes not able to leave a marriage. So there's lots of, relationship things that I don't want to presume to lecture, advise on. But I do think that it's important first to put on that, and it took me a while. It takes you a while to put on the hat of what do I want for myself, really, because you're always thinking for your children, for your family, for your community, for your, in this case, like, the whole country. So you're thinking for many things.
Well said.
Yeah. So you don't want to, you're upsetting many apple carts at a go, and you want to do it in a way that you can collect those apples reasonably well. But first you kind of have to take that decision for yourself. And
what do I want? What is really good for me?
Yeah. And what will make me happy? And I really feel like finding good sort of advice, either as with counselors or through friends or people who are in some way objective about the situation, can guide you, help you out in a way that you feel secure personally, and of course in every other way, legally and financially. And after that is to try to forgive yourself for that relationship through that process, because often when you're in a marriage, there are lots of different difficult things in marriage, and there's lots of blame assigned to different people, and you begin with forgiveness to yourself, that you sometimes blame yourself. Many people do that. I've spent so many years in this marriage, and it's a waste. You feel like you wasted 20 years or whatever, of your life. And that's really sad, because you'd go away thinking that that's a gaping hole in your life. But surely there were some happy times. Surely there were good things. And you kind of remind yourself of that and forgive yourself for your decisions and many things that you might have said or done, and forgive the other person then for that. And try to come to a place where you can talk about
Mm.
these things in a non-aggressive way.
Non-bitter way,
Yeah.
non-accusatory
So I think for
way.
most women,
Mm.
the trick is to be, and one counselor had told me this, is to be assertive, not aggressive.
Mm.
And most of us find it hard to be assertive without, kind of in self-defense being aggressive.
Mm.
So yeah, it's, I mean, I guess I also was very fortunate to have a partner who was wonderful
Mm.
and a family that was supportive, and I didn't really want to lose.
And what
this
about the
family.
country?
Country also I don't want to lose. So I'm hoping they're still with me.
Country that
despite
no,
my
but
divorce.
I think country has been very warm towards
Yeah.
you with to your film and to you
Yeah.
as you brought this film out.
Yeah. Even the divorce, I mean, actually people were really so understanding of it,
Yeah, I
because
think
we came
because
out and told people,
Yeah.
and we've been kind of
Yeah.
fairly open about everything, which is, I think, been appreciated, because
It's let's say it's not usual.
Yeah.
And I think you guys are, Amir especially, is setting new goals as to how people maneuver their relationships, and they are good goals.
Yeah.
But Kiran, I think that's where I that's it. I won't get further into your personal life. I don't think the country needs to know
that much more.
Country doesn't need to know more.
Beyond this.
Yeah, but we're happy that you're out here as a director.
Mm.
I think now we are going to see Kiran Rao. Just Kiran Rao.
Oh, thank you. आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर.
Thank you, Kiran. It was lovely talking to you.
It
and we're
was.
looking forward to a lot more movies.
Thank you.
Thank you.